Hey guys, how's it going? Hope everybody's doing really well out there today. Last Saturday, we were doing a live stream and somebody in chat asked if I had ever heard of a Docker service called Tianji. At that point, I hadn't, so we looked it up kind of in real time. And I was brought to this website right here where we can see that Tianji is an all-in-one insight hub that includes analytics, uptime monitoring, server status monitoring, and more. So I was immediately intrigued. We kind of dug through it a little bit, high level, just looking at the website on Saturday, looked into it a little bit Sunday, and then yesterday kind of went through a dry run install in a live stream just to make sure there weren't any weird quirks that I might run into while doing this video. So I'm trying to maybe do more of those in the future where a new project comes into my purview and then like Monday morning we just do a dry run during a live stream just to see how it goes and then answer any questions that viewers might have along the way. And then for those people who don't like to rewatch live stream VODs, then they can come back and watch this video and hopefully have a much clearer idea of what to expect with that application. So that's how Tianji came into my purview, kind of some of the experience I've got with it. And in this video, I want to just kind of walk you through a couple of things on their website. We'll take a look at that. We'll take a look at their GitHub very briefly. We'll take a quick look at my instance, and then we'll talk about getting it installed and a couple of the little quirks that I noticed, rather, that you'll want to be aware of when you try to install Tianji for yourself. So with that said, let's jump in. Let's take a look at Tianji in Docker. So this is Tianji's website. We took a look at this briefly a second ago, but basically, like it says here, it's an all-in-one insight hub that includes website analytics. So think like Google Analytics or Umami, Uptime Monitor, think Uptime Kuma, server status, and more. We kind of covered that a moment ago. There's this option to get started in the cloud. If you click that, it's just going to take you to kind of a page that isn't quite ready yet, or you can deploy this in Docker, and that's what we're going to do in this video. That said, don't run these two commands. Please don't do that. We're going to take a look at this Docker Compose, and we're going to make some changes to it to make it work appropriately. But before we get into that, this does offer open API if you want to use it. That said, there's some issues with it, whether you want to use it or not in the Docker Compose. So just know that Open API is a thing that you can install with this. You can enable it or disable it with a true or false statement in the Docker Compose. But we're going to take a look at that. Anyway, so defining features by needs, again, we kind of talked about all of these different things. We're not going to talk about surveys or feeds. They're not quite ready for prime time, in my opinion, yet, at least not for how I might consider using them. So we're not even going to go there. This application is currently actively being developed. So what you see now in this video may not be the way it is when you get around to installing it or watching this video. So just know this is active development and things may change. So next, we've got no cookie tracking. That means you don't need to request user consent for cookie tracking because they don't use cookies to do their thing. We're also GDPR and CCPA compliant. They go into detail about that. They're also open source and community driven. So if you want to help them out, you can jump over to their GitHub page. Again, this will be linked in the video description if you want to check that out. And you can dig through their code. You can read more about it. You can take a look at their motivation, why they wanted to do it, which is kind of wanting to bring everything into one app versus having multiple apps to do everything. I kind of dig that. They've got a roadmap with a bunch of stuff checked off and some other stuff that isn't, and I love seeing that. It tells me that they're motivated to keep going. Love it. Next, we've got some previews of what you might expect to see once you've got everything set up in your instance. Great screenshots there. And then new translations if you want to do that, and then that kind of thing. Now, I specifically mentioned Umami and Uptime Kuma because those apps were inspiration for this, as it says right there on the GitHub, and I appreciate that level of transparency. So again, this will be linked in the video description. It does currently have 1.7 thousand stars, so if you like this, want to support them, you can do that. There may even be, nope, there's not, but you can definitely do that, bare minimum, and it's free. So So that's kind of the resources there. We've also got a hub.docker.com page. I encourage you to check this out. We can see that this was updated 3 days ago. And we've got some different tags in here for latest 1.17.6 and 0.5 and 0.4 and all the way back. They've done a really good job with their versioning. Really dig that. So let's take a quick look at my instance. Again, all of the resources that we talk about in this video will be linked down below. This is my test instance for the sake of demonstration here. And the first thing that you see when you log in is your website analytics, your Umami, your Google Analytics, whatever you want to call it. That's what we're going to see here. If I refresh this page, there's currently one visitor on dbtechreviews.com. In the hour or so that this has been up, we've had 48 views, 37 visitors, and 100% bounce rate with an average view time or visit time of 2 minutes, 42 seconds. And we can kind of see what that little chart looks like right there for the last 24 hours or so. But we can click view details and get more details by scrolling down. We can view pages, referrers, browsers, operating systems, devices, titles, country or region, and events if you've got any events set up. But very, very clean, very easy to use, that sort of thing. If you click code, this is the code that you would get, you would put in your website's header. Each content management system or website is going to do that a little bit differently. Like with WordPress, I've just got WP header and footer, that plugin, and here we can see that's what that code looks like. I dropped it in there, I clicked save, and immediately started tracking information over here on my dashboard. You can also click the little the gear right there and get more information about that, and kind of go from there. You can also tie these together, so like that would go together, and click save, and then you should start getting some correlating data between your user analytics, your Google Analytics, and the monitoring that we will take a look at here in a little bit. One other quick thing here, if you're a website developer or somebody who's interested in accessibility, speed, performance, that sort of thing for your websites, you can also click right up here where there's this lighthouse option, and here we can see that I've already run a report, and what it looks like is this, right? Performance, accessibility, best practices, SEO, and this is kind of a website grader thing that gives you ideas on how you can improve the performance, accessibility, best practices, and SEO for your website. Just kind of built in there, kind of tucked away. I'd like to see this more prominent, but you know, it's there, and I'm sure the developer will do something more with it as they see fit. But that's kind of what goes on with like the analytics portion of things. We've also got monitoring. And this is kind of going to be like your Uptime Kuma level kind of thing, where you can, request a URL to monitor. We can see response times and average responses and uptime for 24 hours and 30 days, and when your cert expires, and you can see the latency, the response time there in that neat little chart. We can click edit, and we can get more information about that, as far as how we want to handle it, as far as the monitoring type. We can't edit that, but I'll show you that here in a minute, what that looks like. And of course, Proxmox. I just did a TCP port, and here we can see everything is up and running, but the response is so fast that it's 0 milliseconds because it's on the same piece of hardware. But if we click add, we can set our monitor type to ping or TCP port or DNS, HTTP, OpenAI, or custom, and then from there, if we did something like HTTP, right? You can give it a name. You can say how often do you want to check in seconds, how many retries, the URL or the host name, depending on what you're doing, how you want it to handle that, get, put, post, patch, delete, head, whatever the case is. If I were to do that, I'd probably say like head, and then I would come down and I would say probably text HTML, and then do a preset and fetch the default headers, right? And then if you wanted to, you could set up notifications by clicking right down here. If you've got a notification set up, we will take a look at that as far as getting those set up. But basically just real basic stuff as far as monitoring is concerned. And then we've got servers, and this is where you can install some code from this server to that server and have it show you something like this, where we can see that the node name, which is actually just this LXC, the LXC that this Docker container is on, is called called Tianji. The host name is Tianji, how long it's been up, load, network, all of that kind of good information. And we can open this up and even go as far as to see what Docker containers are running, their status, their state, their port, their CPU, memory, traffic, disk, and when they were created. I love that level of integration with this. If you want to add this kind of tracking to an LXC or a VM or a piece of bare metal, you can just come over here to servers and then up at the top right, click add, and then just run whatever command is right here in the middle to install, or you can do uninstall, which is basically the same command, or you can click on restart to restart that service on there. So a few different ways that you can handle that. Just know that if you're just keeping this internal, it's probably fine to not put this on a URL like I've done. Like this is tianji.dbtech.dev. So if you were to install this, let's say you wanted to monitor something outside your local network, or if you wanted to use like the Umami, the Google Analytics functionality, you probably would want to put this on a domain name so that other URLs can call to it over the internet via over an IP address, just to make things a little bit easier. But just setting that up, super simple. I just pointed a Cloudflare tunnel to it and it just worked. I didn't have to configure anything else in the app. So anyway, that is servers. Again, you can add as many of those as you want. And again, you can install, uninstall, whatever you need to do just by selecting the command that you're looking for. Dead simple to do there. Next, we've got telemetry. Basically, this is like page views, kind of a page counter. And you've got a couple of different ways that you can do this. We're gonna mash some keys there, click that. And if we click usage right here, you can either use a GIF, which is going to be a clear tracking pixel that will not show up on a website, or you can use an SVG, a badge SVG, and get something like this with the visitor 0 there. And you just grab whatever URL, whichever version of that URL you want to use, go over, and you can just simply click, oops, click there, and then, I lied. Let's just do this. We'll click that, and then click image, and then just insert from URL, paste that in there, and then you'll either get a badge or a clear GIF, and it will look like this on your website. Very, very straightforward, but just kind of a cheap, easy way to get action on a specific page if you need to do that for whatever reason. We'll click get to get out of there. Pages, basically this is a status page like you might expect again to see in Uptime Kuma. Very straightforward. And we can click preview and pop this open in a new tab. We can edit, go back to admin, switch to light mode or dark mode, and open this up for more information. Pretty basic stuff, but you can build out these pages as much as you need to by adding additional services and groups and things like that. Next, we've got surveys and feeds. We're going to skip surveys and feeds. Again, they're not quite there yet, in my opinion, but you can take a look at those at your leisure. The other thing you want to do is come down here to the bottom left, click the 3 dots, and click Profile. When you're here, immediately change your password. Once you get signed in for the first time, change your password. Just click right there and do that. For notifications, by default, Godify is, well, by default, there's nothing in here. I added Godify. I almost lied to you, and I don't mean to. If we want to add new notifications, we can click New up here, and we can say Email, AppRise, which supports 90 plus different services. It's actually more than 100. Telegram, Facetune, or Webhook. And then once you've selected that, then you will fill in the appropriate information here. And again, like if it was SMTP, same thing, just fill in the information for that particular service. But if we click on AppRise, I did that specifically so that we can come over to here and take a look at this. Here are all of the different notification services that are built into this AppRise integration. If you wanted to use something like Godify as an example, right, we're going to click that, and then we're going to see all of the different valid syntaxes that are available here. So if you're going to do this locally, you might just do something as simple as this. Come back over to here, paste that in there. And then because this begins with Godify : / the system knows to use the Godify connection method. So you'd put in your host name, and then maybe you've got a port, whatever that looks like, and then whatever your token is. And once you're happy with that, you can click test to make sure it works. This won't, I promise. And then you can click save, and then you'll start getting notifications available to you via that method or any of the other methods that are available, either through Telegram, Facetune, Webhook, email, or any of the 100 plus AppRise notification options. Next, we got workspaces. We can create additional workspaces as we need to for whatever reason. We've got API keys, audit logs, and usage, where we can kind of get an idea of how this is being utilized as it's currently set up. So that's kind of a quick run through on Tianji as far as how it works. It's dead simple to get in here and just start adding new services for monitoring, for website analytics, that sort of thing. Super, super simple to do. However, getting the installation done is a bit different. So let's take a look at getting Tianji installed via Docker. Okay, so coming back to the Tianji homepage, there were these two commands I said at the very beginning, don't run these. And that's because it's the wget and then this docker compose and then a docker compose up-d. Normally that would probably be fine. However, I encourage you to look through the Docker Compose rather than just copying commands and running them. So we're going to take a look at this. We can see that we've got a version 3 Docker Compose. We don't need that version 3. We don't need versions in our Docker Composes anymore with the newest version of Docker Compose. Below that, we've got services, we've got Tianji, and we've got Postgres. So 2 services to make this work. The Tianji service has an image declared here of moonrail/Tianji. But below that, it's also got a build command that we don't need. We've already got a pre-built image right here. We took a look at this at hub.docker.com. So we don't need both of those things. So because we've got this pre-built Docker image, we don't need this build stuff. That's going to come out. Our port, that's fine. Chances are you're not using 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for anything else. If you are, change the first half, not the second half. We'll take a look at that. We've got some environment variables for a database URL. We're using a Postgres SQL database with the username right here and the password right there, and the database right there. So if you change the username and the password up here like you should, you also need to change the username and password down here in the Postgres environment variables for that container. Next, we've got a JWT secret. This is for cookies and that sort of thing for logging in and staying logged into the back end. It's just for an encryption thing. So change that with a random string of characters, like it says right there. Allow register true or false. Allow open API true or false. There is something missing here, and I'm going to show you that here in a minute. Even if we set this to false, it throws an error on me. So I'll show you how to get around that. Next, we've got depends on Postgres, meaning the Tianji container won't do anything until the Postgres database is up and running. And I love that they've got that in there. And then a restart policy of always, that's fine. Next, we've got a Postgres database with the image of Postgres 15.4-Alpine. Environment variables for the database, the username and the password. Again, if you change the username and password as you should, change them in both places, down here in the Postgres as well as up here in the connection string up there. We've got a volume for Tianji database data. That's just where your database data will live. This is using a Docker volume, perfectly acceptable if you want to do that. Restart policy of always, and then a health check to run every 5 seconds to make sure everything is working appropriately. So I'm just going to copy this, right? And I'm going to jump over here to Portainer. I'm going to create a new stack, and I'm going to paste this in here. I'm going to call this, I'm going to call it Tianji Tuts, like so. So what we're going to do, again, we're going to delete this version 3. We don't need it. Because we've already got our pre-built image here, we don't need those 3 lines for the build command. Now, what we do want to do is add latest to this, right? If you wanted to, though, you could go back with a specific version of, like 1.17.6 or 0.5 or whatever. But again, for the sake of simplicity, we're just going to use the latest tag right there. I'm going to make this 1, 2, 3, 5, 4 for the database, or sorry, for the database, for the port that we're going to connect on. And we're not going to touch the second half of that. Our environment variable for the database URL, I'm not going to change the username or the password or any of that because this is just a tutorial. But when you do this, change it, please, for your own sake. Next, we've got to allow register as false and allow open API, or open API as true. I don't want open API installed, so I'm going to say false. We're going to remember this because we're going to have to come back to this here in a minute. Again, depends on Postgres, restart always. All of the rest of this is fine. I'm going to change this because I've already got a few of these volumes in here. So all of this should be fine at this point. I just manipulated most everything up here. So what I'm going to do is click on deploy the stack. This is going to go really fast because I've already got the image downloaded to my system. Here we go. Tianji Tuts right there. Postgres is starting. Tianji is running. So let's take a look. Ready to accept connections, running. We can take a look at the logs for Tianji 1 here. And here we can see that it's throwing error messages. It's not doing what we want it to do. If I try to open this up, it's not going to load, right? There's something obviously wrong with this setup. So what I want to do is come back to Tianji, and I want to open up the logs here. We're going to give this a second, and then I'm going to disable auto refresh of the logs. What we need to find is throw new errors, open API or open AI error. The OpenAI API key environment variable is missing or empty. Interesting. So let's grab that. Let's just grab this right here, right? We're going to come back to stacks. We're just grabbing this OpenAI API key right there. We're going to go to stacks. We're going to go to Tianji Tuts. We're going to go into here, right under here. I'm just gonna mash some keys. It doesn't matter, right? So once we've got that in there, now we can click on update the stack. Click on update. We're gonna give this a second to do what it needs to do. Success, failure, cool. So let's look at our logs now. Hey, look, this is much cleaner. Hey, we've got info that's actually working. All monitor has begun. So if we come back and then we do this 1, 2, 3, 5, 4, right there. Now I can log in with admin and admin just like that. And it's just throwing an error because admin's a bad password. So the next thing we need to do, like we talked about, click the 3 dots in the bottom left, go to profile, go to change password, type in admin for the old password. Like so, and click submit. And now we can log in as admin with our new password. And we're all set and ready to go for tracking analytics, for tracking monitoring, for servers, for tracking servers, for tracking apps, for tracking all kinds of telemetry. Whatever we want to track within the purview of Tianji, we can now do very, very quickly and easily. And again, I will have links to everything, including my modified Docker Compose in the video description if you want to check that out for yourself. If you want to support Tianji, head over to their GitHub repository and give the project a star. That would be amazing. If you want to support DB Tech, you can like and subscribe and check out any of the resources in the video description for other ways that you can support the channel. So I think with that said, I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to thank you guys for spending a few minutes of your day with me here today, and I'll talk to you in the next video.